After viewing this video, you will be comfortable with all of the major components of the Autodesk Revit user interface, which will allow you to use Revit more effectively. So first of all, we're going to start up here in the upper left corner, and we have our quick access toolbar across the top of the screen. So this is where you can get commonly used tools such as opening, saving, undo, redo, printing. There's also some specific tools that we use in Revit a lot, such as the dimension tool and text tool and the 3D view tool. And like most quick access toolbars, you can click the drop down arrow here at the end to edit what shows up there. Going across the top here, you have the title bar that will show you the name of the file that you're in. And then you also have over here on the right the Info Center. So the Info Center is basically a help function. If you have an Autodesk account, you can sign in to get some more personalized information. But otherwise, if you get stuck on something, you can just click here in the search box and type it in. And then over in the upper right, we have our standard minimize, maximize, and close buttons in Autodesk Revit. Back over here on the left, we also have the File tab. If you click on the File tab, that's going to give you the File menu, or sometimes it's called the Application Browser. Moving on to the right, we have our ribbon. So the ribbon is where you're going to get most of your tools in Autodesk Revit. And the ribbon is comprised of several different tabs. So as you can see, I'm on the Architecture tab. There's a Structure, Systems. When I'm ready to put in some text, I'll go to the Annotate tab. But I'm going to go back to the Architecture tab here. Now each tab contains several different panels. So on the Architecture tab, there's the Build panel, there's the Circulation panel, etc. as we go across here. And of course, each panel has different tools in there. Many of these tools have drop-down or fly-out arrows. So for example, if I go to Roof, there's several different ways that I can create a roof if I click the drop-down arrow. Now right below that is going to be my Options bar. This little gray area here. Now right now mine's grayed out, but you'll see that when I start a command, it'll actually give me several options here that I can modify. So each command will have its own specific options there. So for now, I'm going to cancel out of that command, but again, that's the options bar. Over here on the right, we have some viewing tools. We have our view cube, which allows us to change the way we're viewing things. And then we also have our navigation bar that has some additional zoom and pan tools. These are covered in another lesson. In the lower right corner here, we have what are called the selection toggles. And these are basically just different ways to control the way I can select objects in Revit. So for example, do I click on a face or do I click on an edge of something? So again, you'll learn those tools as you go here in Revit. Right here in the middle, this is a toolbar that deals with work sharing. So if you're working in an environment where several people are in the same project at once, you will use that toolbar. We don't really cover that in this particular class. And then way over here on the left side is our status bar. So the status bar will give you some useful information as you're working along. For example, if I click the wall tool, it's telling me to click to enter the wall start point. So if you're ever in a command and you're not sure what you should be doing, take a look at that status bar and hopefully it will give you a clue. Now over here on the left side of the screen are two tools that are used extensively in Autodesk Revit. First of all, I have my Properties panel up here, or palette as it's known as well. So in the Properties palette, I have a lot of different tools related to either the command I'm using or something I've selected on screen. So for example, if I click on a roof, I see all about that roof, what size it is, what type it is, other information, slope, etc. I'll just escape out of that. And then if I start a command such as the wall command, then I can control what that wall looks like before I draw it. Now another thing that you'll find inside the Properties palette is our type selector. That's just simply this drop-down list here. So this will let you select different types. So for example, I'm in the Wall tool, it lets me pick different types of walls. If I'm in the Windows tool, I'm going to get different windows as well. So again, I'll just escape to back out of that. Then below that is our project browser. So this is what we use to jump between different views of our drawings. So for example, I'm looking at a 3D view. If I want to look at the first floor, I'll just double click on my first floor plan here, and it jumps to that view. If I want to take a look at one of my elevations, say maybe my south elevation, I can double click on that one. And as you can see, I jump to that view. Now from a workflow standpoint, if I want to go back to a previous view, you can either just double click that view. You can also just close the current view and it'll go back to the previous one that you had open. Now, a couple things I want to mention about the properties and the project browser. You do use these a lot. I find myself scrolling up and down to get to all the information that I need in both of these. So I actually prefer to work with these side by side. If you have a widescreen monitor, this works really well. If you're kind of cramped for space, you might want to stack them like I've got them here. So in order to put them side by side, I'm going to click and drag on the title bar of my project browser, and I'm just going to drop it out here in space somewhere. So as you can see, my properties now fills up that entire space, and I've got a little floating project browser here. I'm now going to click and drag this over to the left, and I should see it kind of resize to show me that it's going to lock into place. Now, in my particular case, because of my screen capture software, it didn't preview quite right, but you should have better luck when you drag that over. You should get a better preview. So I can click and drag the little separating lines here until I can see all the information that I want there. So again, I prefer this because it's a lot easier to work with. I don't have to scroll up and down in my properties, and I only have to scroll up and down a little bit in my project browser. Now, sometimes these get closed. So maybe you're trying to move them and you accidentally hit the X box and you close it. Let's say I accidentally closed both of those. In order to get those back, I want to think in terms of the fact that this controls the way I view my screen. So that gives me the hint that I'm going to go to the View tab. So I'll click on the View tab up top, and then all the way over on the right side of the screen is User Interface. If I click the drop down there, you can see that some of the things we talked about already, the view cube, the navigation bar, the status bar, the work sets, these are all things that can be turned on or off. In my particular case, I want to bring back my project browser, and I want to bring back my properties. And again, looks like I'm going to have to do a little bit of resizing to get that to appear the way that I want. And again, that's partially because I'm on a more narrow screen. If I was on a wide screen, this would work out a lot better. So now that you are comfortable with the different aspects of the Autodesk Revit user interface, you are ready to jump in and start using Autodesk Revit.